Good day everyone. Insurance payments totaling more than $1.1 million were lost by the state-owned firm Antonov. The SSU calculated that the An-225 Mriya's destruction cost the Ukrainian state a total loss of $228.4 million. But there is still hope over this whole problem, and we're going to talk about it. The An-225 was a special aircraft as it was very rare. The An-225 attracted a lot of attention everywhere it went, in addition to being iconic for the majesty of its sheer size, since it was the only operating aircraft of its kind in the world. Hopes of ever seeing the aeroplane again have been crushed because it was destroyed. But Antonov did start constructing a second airplane, although it remains unfinished. The An-225 Mriya by Antonov was created to aid the Soviet space program. It performed a unique function for the USSR in place of the Myashev VMT at land, which had been utilized as a temporary stand-in while it was being developed. Its function was to transport both the Buran space shuttle and launch vehicle parts on board. It was made to perform a similar function to the Boeing 747s that NASA used to transport and recover the space shuttles when they returned to Earth. The Soviet space program had ordered not one, but two An-225s to transport its orbiters and launchers in an effort to stay ahead of the space race. However, only the first example was ever delivered, so what actually happened to the second one? Antonov had already started working and building the second 225, and it was roughly 60 to 70% done. However, President Boris Yeltsin officially halted the space shuttle program in 1993. The project had lost priority for the USSR because to dwindling state funding, tense ties with Ukraine, and other issues. However, Antonov continued to believe that the An-225 had potential, and by the end of the 1990s, it had started modifying Mriya. It returned to the sky in 2001, this time as a specialized cargo carrier equipped to transport the heaviest loads around the globe. There were rumors in 2016 that the Chinese were considering making an investment to guarantee Antonov built the jet, but that eventually fell through. The aircraft, according to Antonov's CEO in 2020, is currently economically unviable. The CEO of Antonov meant this to imply that Antonov would never recoup its costs incurred in producing the aircraft, but this all changed in the year of 2022. In February, the one An-225 that existed was destroyed at Hostomel Airport during the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The aircraft's body is scorched and charred, and its nose is idling on the ground. There is no longer a pair of enormous tail fins that originally towered over 6 stories. In addition, 3 of its 6 engines, the tailplane, ailerons, hydraulic systems, and fuel pumps were all damaged. Both Antonov Airlines and Ukrainian President Zelensky have vowed from the beginning to bring back the An-225 to the world fleet. Nevertheless, putting the partially constructed aeroplane into service might not be as simple as it sounds. The new aircraft, which was designed in the 1980s, will need to adhere to the most recent standards for things like noise and CO2 emissions, which may need thinking about alternate power plants and other components. For Antonov, that presents a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. It's an opportunity because they can use the recent standards of regulations to make an even better plane than the original An-225, which was made in the 1980s. No matter what the newly formed An-225 turns out to be, the project will be reasonably expensive. Although not officially associated with the project, billionaire investor and aviation enthusiast Richard Branson has been mentioned, and it's just these kinds of large finances that will be needed to revive this enormous aircraft. The Mriya represented strength, power, and optimism for the Ukrainian people, and its return to flight would be a true dream.